Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 3 of Python fundamentals. Today we will be looking at basic types of data structures in Python. Data structures are used to store and manage data efficiently. Python has an extensive set of data structures such as stacks, queues, trees, graphs, etc. But today we will only focus on the three basic types: lists, sets, and dictionaries, and their functionalities. Here is a table of comparison between lists, sets, and dictionaries. As you can see, only lists contain ordered elements and can store duplicates, whereas sets and dictionaries, the elements are unordered and they cannot store duplicates. All of them are mutable and can store different data types in a single data structure. Now, we will move on to some examples. First, we will start off with lists. You can either create an empty list and add elements to it later, or you can initialize it with values while creating the list. To create an empty list, we first give a name to the list. So for example, let's say colors, and then initialize it with an empty set of square brackets. If you want to create a new list with values, again, we first name the list. In this example, let's say countries, and then we directly add elements inside the square brackets, which are then separated by a comma. So for example, let's say Canada, and then let's say Kenya, England, let's say Nepal, let's say Japan, and let's say Brazil. Now, this is how you create a list with values already added to it. In case you want to add new items to an already existing list, then you use the append function, but the general rule would be to say the name of the list, the append function, brackets, and the element that you want to add. So, for example, for colors, we want to add the color red, and this would add the element red to the list of colors. We can check this by using the print function and printing the list on the console. And as you can see, there is the element red in the colors list. Now, let's say you want to find an item in a given list with index. Index is basically the position of the element in the list. And it is represented by integers. And so, for example, the index of a list starts from 0. So the index 0 represents the first item in the list. Then index 1 would represent the second item in the list. Then index 2 would represent the third item in the list, and so on. So here basically you say this is a general idea again. This would be the list. You would say square brackets, and then you would input the index that you want to find. So let's say, for example, I want to find the third element in the list. I would say index 2, as again, the index starts from 0. So, yes. So, for example, let's say we want to find the second element, which is Kenya, from the list of countries. We would say countries, number 1, and it should give us Kenya. Yeah, that is what it is. And for example, let's say we want to delete items from the list. We would use the pop function with the index of the element that we want to delete. So for example, let's say I want to delete the second element, which is Kenya. I would pop the index 1. We can print the new countries list again, and this time it should not give us Kenya in the list. So as you can see, the country Kenya is removed from the list. And sometimes you don't have to give an index. The index here for the pop function is optional. So for example, if we just say countries pop, if we don't give an index, it will remove the last item from the list. So for in this example, it will remove Brazil. But let's say we want to remove the third last item or the second last item from the list and you don't know the index properly, we can use the negative indices. So for example, I would say pop, and if it's the second from the last item, second item from the last, basically, it would be -2. This is because the last item in the list is -1. So the first element in the list was 0, and then index -1 is the last element, and so the second item from the last would be -2, if that makes sense. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Or email us and I would get back to you. But yeah. So yeah, if you say the second last item, this should give me Japan, and like it would remove Japan from the list. And if I just say pop without any index, it should have removed Brazil. So run, and yeah, it removes Japan, as you can see. Now if I print everything again, it should, yeah, so as you can see, it has removed Japan, and because this is the last item in the list, it has removed Brazil, and this is the final countries of the list. Now we will move on to do some practice problems. Please feel free to pause the video here and try them on your own, and when you come back to resume, I will go through these questions with you. Welcome back. The first question is add 2 elements to the countries list. So we can just say countries append, let's say and we can say countries append let's say India, and this should add the 2 elements to the countries list. The append function only works one by one, but if you want to add multiple items to the list at once, you can try the extend function on your own, but yeah, this you have to do this twice. And for question number 2, find the second element from the countries list. Again, this is just indexing. So countries index 1, because it's the second element and index starts from 0, it's 1, should give you the second element from the list. See the last item read from the colors list. Okay, for us, the only item is red, but then if you were asked to remove the last item, you would just say colors pop, and yeah, that's it. Let's say for some reason you want to reverse the order of items in the list. You can simply use the reverse function. So for the list of countries, we can say reverse, and it will reverse the order of items. So if you print countries again, you could see on the console that it's India, Scotland, Nepal, England, and Canada. So the India and Scotland, to remind you again, came from the practice problems here. So the original list would have been Canada, England, Nepal, Scotland, and then India, but because we reversed it, yeah, the last item came first. And let's say for some reason you want an experiment with a list, but you don't want to mess it up, we would suggest you to copy the list and then play around with the new list so that you can keep the original list safe in case something happens. So for this, it's quite straightforward. you just use the copy function again. So let's say countries new would be countries and then copy. So if you want to print, it would be run. Yeah, and then you can see it's just copied again. And let's say you want to merge two lists together for some reason. So let's say int numbers, and this could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and then numbers. Then if you want to merge it with, let's say, the countries list, you can. The easiest way to do this would be merged lists equals int numbers plus countries. Simple. So now if you print this merged lists, it should give you the integers and then the countries. Remember that, as I said in the beginning, in the introduction, lists can have different data types of elements in the same list, so there shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, so as you can see, you get it in one single list. And again, and of course, there are various ways to do this more efficiently. You can do, in a for loop, you can take the first element and then from this list, and then the first element from the other list, and then go for it like one at a time. But yeah, this is the easier way to do this. Now moving on to sets. Again, like the lists, you can either create an empty set and add elements to it later, or you can initialize it while creating the set. So to create an empty set, we will first name the sets, let's say fruits, and then set with curly brackets. And if you want to initialize a new set with values, we can say, let's say vegetables, and curly brackets, elements that you want to add, let's say tomato, whatever, potato, and then and that's how you do it. You divide it by the elements divided by the comma. If you want to add new items to the set, then you have to use the add function, which is basically set add element. So let's say for fruits, we would say add apple, and if we print fruits now, it should give us an apple set. Yeah. So this is how you do it. You could see the apple here. It was first an empty set before. And yeah, since the elements in these sets are unordered, you cannot use indexes like we did in lists. So to remove elements, and you have to name the elements, the specific elements directly. And for this, we use the remove function. So let's say vegetables, remove, the element would be, let's say, tomato. And if you print vegetables now, it should just give you potatoes. Yeah, because you removed tomatoes. And again, if you want to copy a set, just in case you want to play around with it and you don't want to mess it up, you can use the copy function that we used in lists. Similarly, so it would be set. We can just say fruits to equals fruits copy. And if I print fruits 2, it should give me an apple as well. Yeah. And To merge two sets together, unlike lists, you use something called a union function. So basically, let's say food equals fruits union vegetables. And if you print fruit, it should give you a merged set of both of them. So this would be apple and potato. Yeah, that's how you do for sets. Now finally on to the last segment of this lesson, which are dictionaries. And first of all, I'm gonna begin explaining what dictionaries are. They're basically like the dictionaries that you find in libraries and stuff, where it's like a list of words and then their definition that are linked to each other. It's literally the same in the Python dictionary data structure. What happens is that each element is a pair of a key and a value, and these two are linked to each other, and that's why, because they are linked and unique, I think the keys are unique. It's because you don't need the elements in general to be ordered. If you want to find a certain value, you can just get their key and it will give you its value. So that's how you do it. And again, like sets and lists, you can create an empty dictionary and then add the items later on because they're mutable, or you can just generally just initialize a new dictionary with values itself. So to create an empty dictionary, first of all, we could say trial dictionary, let's see, and then just say, yeah, just ticked and brackets. And I think for sets as well, like we saw previously, I think you can just say set and brackets. You don't need the curly brackets, I'm assuming. But yeah. And to initialize the one with values, let's say personal info equals curly brackets. And here you will have the key and the value. So what will happen is that the key could be, let's say, name. And the name could be let's say your age, that could be 21, and again they can all contain different data types, so it doesn't have to be all strings. It could be a string and an integer, and it's fine. So what happens is that this is one element, the name, and let me actually change it to a normal name. Let's say Mimi. So what happens is that this is an element and this is an element. So name and ages are keys, and Mimi and 21 is like the values. The location is another key, and it could be, let's say, New York. Why not? Okay, so this is how you initialize a new dictionary, and if you now print your personal info, it should run. Yeah, so this is how you see it. And if you want to add new items to the dictionary, this is not the same as we saw in sets and lists. What you do is you take your the dictionary name, you put square brackets into it, and then you name the key that you want to insert. Now let's say, for example, we say studying, and then so that's your key, and then this is your name of the dictionary, and then you say equals, then you give the value for this key that you want it to be. So we can say unfortunately, yes, yeah. So that is how you do it. Now if I print the dictionary, it should, yeah, so it has the additional thing which wasn't there before. And if you want to remove items from a dictionary, you can just say, so there are two ways to do this, either to just use the delete method, or you can say pop item. So pop item is like the pop function that we saw in lists, where so let's say text pop item. This removes the last item from the dictionary, basically. And if you want to delete a very specific key that you know what you're deleting, then I would say use this delete function and you say personal info, and then now you say, let's say we remove studying, and then now if you print personal info, this studying key and its value should have been gone. So yeah, so this was before we deleted everything here, and now it's gone from the last line because we deleted here the studying. Now if you want to copy a dictionary, it's literally the same as we saw in the last two segments. You just say dictionary 2 and personal info dot copy, and if you print dictionary 2, it should, yeah, so you get copied the latest version of the personal info dictionary that you had. And okay, let's say you want to analyze your dictionary and see what keys it is made up of. Just to get an overview, we can get that. So you do this by saying your dictionary name and then just saying keys, brackets. It will give you a list of all the keys in your dictionary. So if you print this, you will get, basically the list of the name, age, and location that was there in the latest version of the dictionary. And you can also get one value from like a very specific key, and there are like two ways to do this. One you could do is, let's say, what my age. Let's say we want to get the age, then we say personal info, and you can just say age. So it will go to this key and get you the value, and you can print this. So print, and yeah, it will give you 21, which was the value for age. And you can also do this by the get method, which is basically what's my age 2 and personal info get, and then you do the same thing basically, and print what's my age 2, and it should give you the same answer. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that was it. And now you'll be doing practice problem. It's I should, yeah, and if you guys wanna pause the video and just try this out, you can, and come back later. We will solve this together. Okay, I hope you had a go. It was pretty straightforward, which is basically what I said here, that you can, okay, to be honest, if you know what the dictionary is, and then you know that for now it's the location, you can do that. But some, like, you can just say delete personal info location and it will do it. So it could be delete personal info location and it will do that. But again, the thing is, at first it was studying the last item and now it's location. So sometimes the dictionary might change and you won't know what the last item is. So the safer way would be just to say my dictionary and then pop item, and that should work. So for now, our thing is location, and this should go, and it should only leave us with name and age. So if we do that, yes, there you go. So you have name and the age, and that's the end of the lesson. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment, and yeah, we will help you. But I hope this lesson was useful. Thank you for sticking around, and hopefully see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.